which is the essence of creativity. And I could go on and on and on, but I think we probably get the picture. As we turn to that allness and that fullness of life itself, we recognize that that allness and fullness of life lives and moves and has its being as each and every one of us. And so each of us God beings here on this call today are here by divine appointment. And I call forth a blessing for each and every one of us for being here, that which we came in desiring, whether it was conscious or not, is fulfilled. And that as we are fulfilled and uplifted and empowered and expanded, we then give that gift to the world. So how blessed we are to be here. I'm so grateful and blessed for our beautiful speaker this morning, Lysa Allman-Baldwin, and for every exquisite soul on this call. Thank you, Source. Thank you, Life. Thank you, God. And we simply let it be, and so it is. Amen. All right. So I have the honor and privilege of introducing our speaker this morning. And I know her a little bit, so I'm going to give you her brief bio and then a brief personal comment. So Lysa Allman-Baldwin is a dynamic, yes, I know that's true, gifted, sought-after speaker, workshop facilitator, and writer who delivers valuable and effective leadership and self-empowerment tools for authentic, purposeful living. She is the author of a highly acclaimed book, I Cried and People Loved Me Anyway, and her second book is in the works currently. I had a chance to meet Lysa and spend time with her at the Big Sky Retreat last September, and will again this September. And went to her workshop, was blown away at the power of her exquisite forgiveness, fear-based workshop, or I shouldn't say fear-based, that wasn't properly said, was it? Workshop on hand and how to address fear. Yes, her fear-based workshop was fabulous. How to address fear. And that was amazing and fabulous. And then I got a chance to get to know her delicious, precious personality, because she and I and others spent, I don't know how long, hours, I think, riding a chairlift up and down and up and down. We just kept riding, looping on this amazing chair. And then we went to a different chairlift at Big Sky and had the most delightful time sharing stories, getting to know each other, telling dirty jokes, none of which will be told here, but an utterly delightful time. So without further introduction and with no dirty jokes whatsoever, I would love to introduce our speaker today, Lysa Allman-Baldwin. Lysa, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. I have to say that's the most interesting intro anyone's ever given me before. So I like it.
Good. I'm glad. I like hearing that. So I'm going to ask Lysa some questions. We'll ping off of whatever happens there. And I really want to encourage all of you, if you have questions or comments, please just raise your hand, put it in the chat. I will see you, Bill will see you, and because we want to get to your questions with whatever you have. So please feel free, keep yourself muted unless you have a question, because that's always a good thing. But we definitely want to hear from you and have this be an interactive experience. So Lysa, just to let us know a little bit about you, tell us what brought you to your spiritual journey.
So I was raised in what I call a fire and brimstone household. And when I was little, when you're little, you don't have the words to language things. And I just knew that it didn't resonate with me, that there was, on one hand, I was told that there was this God that was benevolent and loving and sent you here and would do anything for you. But on the other hand, if you messed up, you were going south of the border. And by the way, you can do everything, we tell you and what the minister says and what God says and what the Bible says. But you were born a sinner, so really you're never really going to measure up, and your name is probably not going to be on the pearly gates and all of that stuff. And so, again, not being old enough to have any, bigger picture, it just never resonated with me. But, you go to church with your family and that's what you have to do. So when I turned 18, that was it. I said, I don't have to go. They can't make me go. I'm an adult now. And I didn't think that there was a God, because that's the only Jekyll and Hyde God there was. Then I don't want to have anything to do with it. And I will take wandering in the desert for 400 Alex and just go with that, right? So I didn't have any kind of spiritual background, church, anything like that for about 25 years. And so we were living in my family were living in California at the time, and my then husband and kids, we moved to Kansas City. And my sister-in-law said, do you want to go to church with us? We go to this church called Unity Temple on the Plaza. And so I figured, why not? It'll be a one-time visit, and, I don't have any problem with that. And so I remember two particular things from that first visit. One is that everybody was friendly and open and hugging, which is totally me because I'm a flaming extrovert. I could go somewhere and there's 500 people in the room. I don't know anybody. I'm perfectly comfortable. And I love that. The second thing, and I don't remember exactly what he said, it was Reverend Duke Tufty, for any of you who know him. But basically, the service was an hour, not 3 hours, like what I was used to and what I grew up in. And, you get the beat down. I call it the beat down. You get the beat down for 3 hours. And then they say, well, have a good week. See you next week. It was 1 hour. It was a little bit of music, a little bit of message, a little meditation, a little more music, off you go. But what I remember that he basically said at the end was, this is what we believe. What do you think? And I thought, this is the first time anybody ever asked me what I thought. It was, you do this, you do this, you do this, you don't do this, you don't do this, you don't do this. And there was no space to ask questions. There was no space to question it. There was nothing. So I thought, okay, this is interesting, but this is probably how they get you in the door. And then the second time you go is something else. So we went back the next week and it was the same thing. Next week it was the same thing. And that was this was probably now 20, about 20, almost 25 years ago. And that was a complete game changer in my life. So that's how I got involved with it. So I started going every week, and then I was taking classes, and then I was in the discussion group, and then I was working in the kids program, and then I was on the board, and all of these things. And that's kind of how I walked into New Thought. I had never even heard of New Thought when I was younger. So that's kind of the path that brought me to that.
Thank you. I suspect many of us on this call, I know I can completely relate to what you said. I suspect many I'm seeing heads shake that we have a somewhat similar story, being raised in some tradition that didn't quite resonate. And then at some point, mine was when I started dating. At about 17, I was a bit of a late bloomer. About 17, I started dating, going out on a Saturday night, not wanting to get up early Sunday morning to go to church. And my mom did not make me. And then I did not go to church for 15, I don't even know how many years, 20 years, something like that, because I didn't need God. And then walked into a religious science church, and so lovely, love that story, Lysa, and so relatable to so many of us. Thank you. So tell us, your book, amazing book. Tell us what brought you to write this book. And the title of it is amazing. I cried, and people loved me anyway. Talk to us about your book.
Sure. And what I thought I'd do to kind of walk you into that is to read just the introduction from that. And now it'll kind of give you the setup of how this came about. So it reads, any skilled sailor will tell you that the sea is unpredictable. Sometimes the water is flat and serene, and you can see clearly for miles and miles in all directions. It's beautiful, comforting, and you're excited and hopeful about what's on the horizon. Undulating ripples of various heights always come and go. Your job is to flow with them until they level out again. But sometimes massive storms begin forming in the distance with gale force winds and gigantic swells. Some you can see coming, and there's time to batten down the hatches and brace yourself. Others take you completely by surprise, bearing down before you can suck in a big gulp of air and latch onto something. No life vest is anywhere within reach. The boat capsizes and you're thrown about, violently thrashed overboard. Your internal compass is so jostled, it's unable to discern north, nor south, nor east, nor west, much less the surface. After what seems like an eternity, the winds die down, the sea begins to calm, and there's a sliver of sunshine peeking through an opening in the clouds. A shard from the wreckage innocently floats by as if nothing happened. You latch onto it, clinging to it for dear life. As the cerebral fog begins to lift and the briny water trickles from every orifice above your shoulders, you realize you're alive. Barely, battered and bruised, but alive. Perhaps a rescue vessel will be along at any moment. But despite this reprieve, you just want to let go, sink beneath the surface into the abyss, and move on. This seems to be the story of my life. The storms becoming stronger, more ferocious, and increasingly insurmountable as the years pass. Death has got to be better than this. Just let go. This time, I just want to let go. So the story kind of starts January, February 2015, where in a 6-month period of time, everything in my life went to pot, one thing after the next, after the next, after the next. So started off, our dog drowned in an accident. And due to the circumstances, my kids weren't there when it happened and were subsequently didn't get any closure at a burial or anything like that. And so they were little at the time. So, you know, as a parent, you're always worried about kids with things like that because, you know, they aren't familiar with death like we are as adults. 5 months after that, the love of my life, the first man 11 years post-divorce with whom I had gone all in, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, left, essentially out of the blue with no word at all. So that proverbial Mack truck hit me at 100 miles an hour and I never saw it coming. And for weeks I spent, you know, telling people what a good person he was, and he'd been in, hurt in relationships before, and that this highway accident was probably the best he could do. But inside I felt like I had totally failed. And I gave the kids the same, placebo too. I figured, why let them be hit by that same Mack truck? They were innocent bystanders and this wasn't their accident, is how I say it. 5 days after that, my youngest son was scheduled to have outpatient surgery. And at the last minute, his dad, my co-parent, decided not to show up again, using his anger at me from the divorce as the reason for his impending absence this time. 5 days after that, I was supposed to give a talk, and it had been scheduled for weeks, and the title was, "You just have to believe in yourself because you are far more than you know." So I somehow muddled through the talk, but behind my smile, I was standing in, the quicksand of anger and stress and hurt. And the irony of the timing of the talk, the title of the talk was not lost on me. What was the next thing that happened? Just everything you could think of: financial problems, getting ready to do the college search for my oldest child at that time. So the empty nest grieving all of a sudden hit me, that those 17 years had gone by in a flash. Menopause that was making me literally a hot mess. All these things that had to be done with my house before the winter set in. It was just a bam, 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 bam. And it got to the point where my dam of my emotions just broke completely. Like 1,000 sticks of dynamite couldn't have done a better job with it. And I was done. I said, okay, God, this is the deal. I'm 52 years old. I was at the time, I can't do anything right. This stuff has been happening my entire life. Now it's happening in a row. I can't figure out how to get out of it. So I'm done. No reason for me to be here. I'm just wasting air. Everybody would be better off without me. And luckily, the only small thing that did catch my brain was, but I don't want to do this to my kids, because I knew what that would look like on the other side to them. So, but that made it worse, because now I felt like I didn't even have an out. Now I'm really stuck in a box. And so I basically just said, okay, I've got nothing here. God, you have to come up with something. So fast forward a little bit, I ended up working with a therapist who I had been in therapy before over the years for different issues with different people, but it was a different therapist. And basically she was saying she has this thing that she calls your WOS, your wealth operating system. And what she was saying is that even with being, an extrovert and outgoing and, we have our successes in life over the ways, underneath the program was a very low self-worth story. And now I can track it back to a lot of it was from my childhood. And one of my parents who constantly undermined us, and we were verbally abused and emotionally abused, and all those little things. And then you have societal things about your race, about your gender, about your sexual orientation, about your income, all of that stuff. But anyway, she identified that way down in the program, that was running the program of my life underneath everything. So basically she said, well, that's what we were going to work on. And so I just took checking out off the table for the moment. I said, I had nothing at that point. So I said, whatever she said, I'm just going to hold on to that and we'll just see where this is going. And about 2 months after I started working with her, I remember it like it was yesterday. It was January 3rd, 2016. And I was asleep 3 o'clock in the morning, and God came in my room, shook me by the shoulders as if a human came in and shook my shoulders and said, you're going to write a book about this experience. And the title is I Cried and People Loved Me Anyway. So the first thing I said was, excuse me? I just got through telling you, God, how I'm worthless, don't need to be here, sucking up air. Everybody else would be better without me. And you want me to write a book and tell everybody my dirty laundry. And the guidance I heard was, yes, you are. So I thought, okay, well, I've heard Spirit speak to me in the time I'd been in spiritual community very loudly and clearly. So I guess I'm writing a book. And I started writing it the next day. It took 2 years to write it. It was not like the light bulb went off and everything was honky-dory. Trust me, it was a lot of this for the next several years. But it took me 2 years to write it. I self-published it in 2018. I went on a book tour through most of the United States. And that kind of, because I had done speaking before and I was a writer before in my career, and that started kind of the speaking and leadership training and the things that I do now.
What a journey. Thank you for sharing with us so vulnerably and authentically and genuinely. Just a touching story that I suspect, again, many people on this call can relate to pieces and parts of it. And I was just so struck by that moment of surrender that you had when you said, I don't know what to do. I'm out of ideas, right? I had the option of leaving, and now I've even taken that off the table because of my kids. I don't know what to do. And that is a profound moment, and was for you, and I think has been for many of us, that profound moment when we say, I got nothing here. Source, life, God, spirit, whatever term we want to use, help, right? Even if we don't say those words, that's what we say. And that's when we do that, and you explained it so beautifully, when we do that, then the resources that we need. You found a therapist, you got on track, and then you hear the voice of God. Oh, and by the way, you're going to share this horrifying, humiliating, if you will. Those are my words because I would feel that way, experience with the world in a book. Are you crazy?
Exactly.
But that's what you got. Wow.
Yeah.
So this isn't a question that you and I even, talked about, but it's coming to me right now. If you were just going to give a comparison of your life today, sitting here, talking to us, being our speaker on Thought Leader Thursday of this gorgeous organization versus the woman who heard that voice that said, you're going to write a book. Talk to us about that comparison.
Well, I still look back at that time and I can't believe it's been, I guess it would be 8 years now, and every year and even just in between that, that you just can't give up because these things happen to everybody. And when you're going through it at the time, you think it's only you. And all you can see is the dark tunnel in front of you. So we say things like, I know other people have gotten divorced, and then we say, but not like this. I know other people have lost their job, but not like this, whatever it is. And we tamp down our own human emotions and feelings around it. And nobody else could possibly understand. Nobody's going to get it. I'm the only one on this island out here. But first of all, it would have been a huge mistake to leave. It would have solved nothing, except that it would have devastated everybody that I left behind me. So I'm thankful that I didn't go that road, but it was certainly right there. And I remember also that afterwards, I thought, I never would have thought I would have been at that point. And I've had people in my life who have checked out that way, and or heard of strangers on TV or what have you. And I always thought, gosh, couldn't they have reached out to somebody? But I understand now why. When you've slid that far down, your all sense of reason is gone. The woman that I am now from the woman I am when I heard that call is that it brought me into a new purpose and understanding and authenticity of my real self that I didn't have before. And sometimes you have to have everything stripped away, whether it's physical things or emotional, what have you, for you to find what is your next level of greatness or finding your next level of higher consciousness. And it has just continued to go from there. And when I was on my book tour and even thereafter, is that every time somebody would say, what's your book about? And I'm 30 seconds in and they're shaking their head and they're saying, me too, or they're telling me, they just got some diagnosis or something like this happened. And it's always a reminder that we're all on this journey together and things show up in different ways. But with our stories and with our vulnerability and our authenticity, that's how we can help other people. The therapist would tell me all the time, when you're raw and vulnerable, it allows other people to be raw and vulnerable too, because she says we're all 5-year-olds walking around in adult bodies trying to hide all of our stuff because we don't want anybody to know. And so I just am grateful. I'm thankful. I always say I'm flabbergasted, but not surprised how spirit works.
I love that. Flabbergasted, but not surprised.
I'm not surprised. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Yeah. Just turning and saying, I'm yours. Do with me what you will, basically, and right. look at what happened. And yeah, I'd love to just check and see if anybody has, you've shared so much and so rich. Anybody have a comment or a thought that you want to make? Just want to check in because I got lots of things I can ask Lysa, but I want to know if anyone has anything. I'm just checking our group here. Looks like you guys are. Yes. Oh, I saw somebody. Who was it? Hold
on.
Hi.
Yeah. Lysa, hi. It's been a long time. I don't know if you remember me from CSL Kansas City. I follow you on social media, and something, in me spoke when I saw the post that you're going to be speaking to this group, and I appreciate this group allowing me to be here. The thing that comes to mind for me, Lysa, is that before this happened, you were an incredibly powerful person and very obviously a powerful speaker. Maybe not, you didn't feel powerful, but you certainly looked powerful. Because I saw you in action speaking and being, coming up in the leadership of our CSL. So what comes to mind to me is that, this is the little voice in my head, the voice of the little person, not the spirit Susie, but it's saying, but she was so powerful. She can handle it, but what do I have to offer that would get me through that kind of situation? And I just wonder what you say to that little voice, that little girl who's kind of saying, "Ooh, how could I possibly be that great?"
Well, I think that I kind of, when you're saying that, I thought back to something that the therapist would tell me is that our little boy or little girl or little however we identify was raised by imperfect people that brought their own stuff to it. And so these underlying messages, whether they were subversive or they were very blatant in your face, we have a choice now as our older, wiser selves, whether we want to still hold on to those or not. Because if we believe that we are spiritual beings having a human experience and that we have every tool we need to live a happy and fulfilling life, and that spirit, is sent us here, or however, people believe a little differently, and is here to support us in every way, that means we have all the God-given tools we need. It's just learning how to use them differently as we go along. So one of the things that she had me do was she had me find a picture of myself, baby picture of myself. And I think I was 6 months or something like that. And I was supposed to put that on the table and talk to her every day. And it took me probably 6 months to even say her name and look at her without crying. But I kept at it. And now what I tell myself, because that fear lizard comes up all the time, just being human, is that I don't, fear is, they say false evidence appearing real. It's also future events already ruined. And why am I telling a story about something that either already happened and I can't change it? It's a future story that I don't want to happen. It's saying that I'm not worthy and valuable enough like everybody else here. It's a story, and it's only a good story or a true story if I believe it. So if we're going to tell ourselves, well, I'm not powerful enough, and how could I be like so-and-so, and how could I be that good of a speaker, and how could I be that good of a CEO, or whatever it is, you're right if that's what you think. It's just reprogramming the program that we've been letting run us for a while, so that we're giving the input instead of the input, giving us or moving us. If that makes any sense, Suze.
And I love the analogy of the fear lizard, because it's like this illusion almost, but it seems so big and daunting in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if I had a conversation with somebody about this, and they were expressing some things they were fearful about, and how could they do this and this, and I said, well, if I said these things to you about coming from my perspective, what would you say to me? And she said, well, I would say that you can do it, and you're powerful, and you're human and everything. So I said, so how come if you would tell me that, you don't tell yourself that?
Mm-hmm.
And I have to tell myself that all the time. I call it talking myself off the ledge. And another friend of mine calls it attending your own lecture.
Beautiful. Thank you.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sue, for the question.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, as I was thinking about that question, it occurred to me that I think every one of us at some point, and maybe like even today, think that that other person over there has got it all together. I don't. but they do. But
Right.
that if you ask that person if they think they have it all together, they would say absolutely not. So we judge ourselves so harshly, and we judge others often about the appearance that they're giving us, which may seem strong, but inside, there's not. So thank you, everything that you said, Lysa, and wanted to add that little note. So I saw Ruth Miller. Ruth, you had your hand up.
I marvelous recounting of your story. Thank you very much. And yes, of course, I related to so much of it. Thank you so much. And what came to mind as I was listening to it was something that Emma Hopkins teaches, and that is, in order for us to enter into who we truly are, the world that we had built from what we thought we were has to come unglued. It comes unglued, and you described that so perfectly, and you had been practicing and learning and developing these ideas, and you were living them at some level, and then whoops, the whole world had to fall apart. And I know that place. You end up in the place which, surrender. Isn't that the theme for CSL this month? That we're vulnerable and we have to surrender. And so to, Emma's idea of our world coming unglued seemed to be an appropriate, rubric, label for what you described. And thank you for sharing it so beautifully.
Yeah, I realized that through going through that process that my, I guess, subconscious version or understanding of surrender was this. And what I learned, it's really like this. Which is much more powerful and much more comforting. And it's just, use me. Like there's some lesson and blessing in here. I have no idea what it is. And could you get to it a little faster, by the way, with all this pain? But however, I'm open, I'm not, surrendering in, I'm surrendering out.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Ruth. Beautiful comment. So Lysa, you just used a term that I heard you use a lot, and I understand now, given that I've taken your beautiful fear, Living Beyond Fear workshop, but I want you to, if you wouldn't mind talking about it a little bit here, and that's the fear lizard. Talk to us about the fear lizard.
Yeah, so there is actually a real thing in science. It's called the RAS, which is the acronym for Reticulator Activating System. And it actually starts up here, like this part of your head, and it runs down your neck to where it connects down by your shoulders there. And so the RAS is basically our fear lizard, which talks to us all the time. And we do want our fear lizard to talk to us in times when there's crisis, like if there's a fire, or there's a flood, or someone's physically trying to harm you. Your fear lizard says, hey, you need to be running, you need to call 911, you need to get out of here. It's your fight or flight thing. But the problem is that the fear lizard kind of goes off on its own trajectory. So when I do my workshops, I kind of tell people, like, your fear lizard is kind of like the doorman at the building, right? Trying to keep people or things in or out, right? That's supposedly for your safety, right? Because our brains can only handle so much information at a time. So they're kind of like watching the store. But, and I learned this, so I can't take credit for it, like I came up with it, but I learned it through the therapist. She started me on the fear lizard story. And is that what we need to do? I thought she was going to tell me this is how you get rid of the fear lizard. Unfortunately, no. It was how to use the fear lizard and train it from giving me negative input to positive input. So in other words, creating the story that I want. And so, and what she also had me do was to give the fear lizard a name. And so in that process, I realized that the real fear lizard, again, like what I said from my upbringing, was my father. And so I was always afraid of him. Like I said, he was verbally abusive. He was emotionally abusive. It was a horrible upbringing. I say that everything was fine. We lived in a prison and everything was fine until the warden came home. But that fear lizard was him. And so I named my fear lizard his name. And again, tying into that little girl with my wiser, older self, talking to her is the fear lizard's tactics only work if I choose to listen and accept them. And if I choose to use positive input, what I want to create in my life, that is what is going to show up. And that's what I want the lizard, if it's going to stay there, to keep telling me.
Thank you. Wow. Thank you. I love knowing the science, the brain science, back here, and then the shift on how to work with. I love train. I'm going to train my lizard. I just had a friend who went to Florida and went to an amusement park, and they actually have alligators there that you can feed. That, to me, I mean, that's like an alligator's the ultimate lizard in my book. And she said, did you know that alligators can be trained? Like, she showed me a video of them actually telling an alligator to sit up to receive his food. And he was like at this 10-foot alligator who sat up, opened his mouth, and received the food. So if you can train an alligator, you can train the lizard, the fear lizard in your head, right? Yeah. So tell us, so your book title is just, again, so compelling. I cried and people loved me anyway. Talk to us a little bit, Lysa, about the significance to you, because it will be significant to us too, of learning that people would still love you in the midst of being a hot mess, as you said about yourself, right?
Well, so I think Spirit has a sense of humor, because that was one of the things I was put down for my entire life. You're too sensitive. Why do you cry all the time? Why do you have to talk to everybody? And this is, growing up in a family of extroverts, they are amazed that I talk to everybody. And I didn't realize till decades later that I was an empath in a family of people who cannot touch their emotions at all. So, I would cry on commercials, a cute commercial. I'm crying because I'm just very, emotionally centered person. So, I thought, well, Spirit, you really think you're funny giving me this, I cried and people love me anyway. But it's true that I grew up thinking that, again, the crying and the sensitivity and all these other things were something that was wrong with me. And that nobody's going to love me if I show any cracks in the armor, if I don't toe the line, if I'm not the perfect daughter, if I'm not the perfect student, if I'm not Black enough, not white enough, if I don't live in the right neighborhood, if I don't drive the right car, make enough money, all of these different things, that nobody's going to love me, because they're going to see, it's not going to take them long in my brain to see these little cracks, and that the waterworks flow all of the time. But what I learned is when everything hit the fan, and I remember the day I went to CSL, because I was going to CSL Kansas City by then, and I don't even know how I got in the building, because everything completely fell apart in the car. And everybody realized something was going on when I got in there, and not one person came over and said, "What is going on here? You never cry. What's going on? You always look so nice." Nothing. People just gently circled the wagons. How can I help you? Is there anything? Can I pray with you? Can I do anything for you? Not one person saw me as cracked or broken, or that they had changed their opinion of me because, again, they thought, I was strong, a strong person, this great speaker and everything. And, it goes back to when you're raw and vulnerable in yourself, other people resonate with that, because they have their moments as well.
And of course, reminds me of the profound work of Brene Brown, right? Right. I mean, vulnerability is so powerful. It's such a powerful connecting thing and healing thing for us when we are vulnerable, and when we love others when they are vulnerable. So again, thank you for sharing that. And
I saw Charles has his hand up.
Oh, thank you for that. I did not see that, so thank you. Yes, Charles, please talk to us.
Oh, I love this lady, and I've only known her since she first appeared at the Big Sky Retreat a couple years ago, and she is now a member of our board of directors of the board of Big Sky, along with Reverend Kim Andrews. But precious Lysa, I think you were born with that innate vulnerability. I think that there was that within your soul that knew there was something more and deeper and richer within you, and that your story and hearing it more deeply again, that there has been that quest of the authenticity within you to share it, and the courage to be it, and the mantra that I love to use for myself is when I'm overwhelmed and all the odds look like, what are you thinking? I love where you said the future event already ruined. I mean, that is priceless. But that, when that hits me, when that comes, it's like, wait a minute. Yes, I can. I can do this. And it is that spirit voice that awakened you in the writing of your book to say, but you're doing it. And a mantra I love is that angels go before me to prepare the way, and the universe has my back. And I know that's how you've lived. Even though you didn't know or realize, but you're an amazing, magnificent, beautiful light in this world, and I love you. Thank you.
I love you too. I love you too. I tell people now to change the acronym to face everything and rise up.
Love that. Face everything and rise up. That's beautiful. Thank you, Charles. What
Charles.
Lovely, delicious, true statements were just spoken. Is there anyone else who wanted to share that I missed? Bill, do you see anyone? Lisa, do you see anyone that I'm not seeing?
I am not currently seeing any hands up. There's a little reaction button, so you can press your raise hand and push right up to the top of the list over here if you've got something that you'd like to comment.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, I have another question for you, Lisa. So in all of this, I mean, I think you may have addressed it a bit, but I'd love to ask it more directly. In all of this journey that you've been on, because, even you were in New Thought, you had, gone to a Unity church when the darkness hit, when your world fell apart. You were already following these beautiful spiritual teachings, and still life fell apart. So what role, if you will, did faith play in this journey? What role did faith play?
Well, I think it was going back to realizing that there had been things that had happened before, which, everybody has things in their life. And that once I was on the spiritual journey, that there, like Charles said, that spirit has my back, and that there is a spiritual solution to this human problem. And I just need to be open to receiving it. Even when things are really dark and, our human brain is working overload to try and figure out what is the answer, what am I supposed to be doing, what is the lesson I'm supposed to be learning in this, and just knowing that it's there, it will show itself. And when you're on the other side of it, just having faith that not only will you get through it, but that the lessons and blessings in it are far beyond anything you could have possibly come up with. And possibly imagined, beyond, as the term says, your wildest dreams. And just knowing that, you're here for a purpose, and it comes in trickles and drabs sometimes, and then sometimes it comes in a gush. But just having faith that, it not whitewash Pollyanna-ish, everything is great, all I have to do is meditate and pray, but knowing that there is an answer and it will come and you'll be the better for it.
Thank you. I see heads nodding to that. Yes. Isn't it just so amazing and beautiful that we have these teachings to fall back, if that's the right term, I'm not sure that is, but to rely on even when life gets so hard. And, every one of us on this call, I know, me included, have gone through some dark night of the soul at some point where life seemed like, I'm not even sure I want to do this anymore. And yet there is this little thing in the back going, yeah, no, wait. There, you'll get through this. You'll be fine. And we have this foundation, knowing that God is good, right? All the time, 24/7,
24/7.
right? God is good all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I equate it to, that's why they say, practice is a spiritual practice. You have to practice it. And I equate it to like when you have an escrow account in the bank and you're storing up reserves in there. And that's kind of like your prayer and your meditation and your daily practices, because there's going to be a day when you need to make a withdrawal. And that bank is always there, and you just draw on those resources when, things go sideways.
I love that analogy. Absolutely. We need to fill up our spiritual bank account. Absolutely. So that in those moments when we don't think we have any resources at all, we have that waiting that we can pull from. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Abigail, for that. She said, I'm so grateful to be here today and hear Lysa. She is a beautiful soul. Amen.
Thank you. That's very nice.
Amen. Talk a little bit. This is for you, so I want to, and valuable to all of us, to talk for a moment about the power behind and the process perhaps you use for forgiving yourself, for self-forgiveness. We can all be pretty hard on ourselves. So what is that process for you?
Well, Charles says it perfectly, and he says it perfectly in his book, is that forgiving ourselves for what we didn't know. Because we're all tying our stories or our self-worth or our mistakes or whatever it is to what we didn't know at the time. But we're more, maybe enlightened is the word, or however you want to say that. But, we don't beat ourselves up because we didn't know how to walk before and we know now. We didn't beat ourselves up because we didn't know how to do math when we were in elementary school and we know now. We kind of cherry pick what we want to beat ourselves up about that we didn't know before. Well, everything where we are now, we didn't know any of it before. So you don't know what you don't know, as that phrase goes. And so what do you want to do with what you do know now? And not making myself the bad person because I didn't know these things, and just forgive myself for doing the best that I could with the information I had at the time. And, self-forgiveness plays a big role in everything, because you could just beat yourself up all day or keep jumping back to those old stories, but it's not serving me any to do that. So I just keep loving myself and forgiving myself and saying that, like you said, everything is going to be okay. But I have to believe in myself. And it doesn't matter if anybody else believes in me, but I have to believe in myself. Everybody else can believe in me, but if I don't, it's not going to work. And I can't believe in myself unless I forgive myself.
Thank you. Wow, that was just amazing. Everyone else can believe in me, and it doesn't matter unless I do. And I can't believe in myself unless I have self-forgiveness. Write that down, everybody. Write that. Ministers and pulpits, that's going to be in your talk this Sunday. Those of you who coach other people, you're going to share that with your clients, and we're all going to apply it right in our lives, because that was profound. Thank you, Lysa. Wow. Yeah. And that we absolutely are doing the best that we can in any given moment. We are. And when we know better, as the Jeannie, thank you for putting that in the chat. When you know better, you do better. Right. And that is absolutely true. And Don't need to beat ourselves up because we didn't know how to do math before, but we do now. We don't need to beat ourselves up because we didn't know how to do that, but we do now. I love it. I love it. All right, so here's a great question. Here's just a small little question for you, Lysa. What power did you find in unconditional love? That question, by the way, comes from PJ, and I wanted to make sure I got it in here.
Oh, well, it kind of goes along with the forgiveness, I think. Or speaking for myself, I was always looking for love outside of me. If my father loved me enough to accept who I was, if, other people loved me for my race, if other people thought I was good enough because of my educational level, if other people's, everything was outside. And there were always conditions on it. So if something fell through, a relationship failed, or you lost a job or something, these were the conditions and the hammer you were waiting to fall anyway, right? Because you knew probably it was going to fall at some time. But to know that I am unconditionally loved by spirit, first of all, and I can unconditionally love myself, even with recognizing my flaws, or if you, instead of you want to say flaws, you want to say your growth areas, that you can still love yourself completely. And it's not braggadocious or egoistic, you have no issues, but that I came from love, I am love, I give love. And nothing else is ever going to work if I don't feel like I am unconditionally loving myself.
I came from love. I am love. That is an affirmation we could all have on our refrigerator, isn't it? I came from love. I am love. Beautiful. So this has been so amazing. We're starting to get close to the end here. So Lysa, I just want to ask you one final question. What's next? What's next? I know you have a new book you're writing, but just tell us what's on the horizon for Lysa.
Well, what's on the horizon? Well, I'm working on my second book, and it's I'm still working on how I want to lay it out. So it's going to be a little bit off of the first book, kind of what's happened in the years since, but also it's going to incorporate kind of the lifestyle I have now, which is that I am a home-free, vehicle-free digital nomad as of 4 years ago. My dream when my kids were gone and off doing their life was that I was originally going to move out of the country. But I have changed that slightly to I sold everything. So I sold house, cars, almost all my possessions. I have an 8x10 storage space, and I travel the world with 2 suitcases and a backpack. And I go to where I'm speaking or where I'm doing a workshop or where I'm visiting friends or visiting family. And so the book is kind of going to have a lot of that in there as well. And just being a global citizen and just being, where spirit is leading me and what I'm supposed to be doing and living in my purpose, which may change, who knows, and just, again, surrendering and being open to the adventure. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Congratulations for having the courage. That takes some courage to do what you're doing. So congratulations. Thank you so much for being with us. This has been a blessing.
Thank you for having me.
A blessing to have you here today. Thank you all for being with us. I have a couple of announcements that I want to make before we bring our time to a close. And the first one is Thought Leader Thursday is always the last Thursday, not the 4th, but the last Thursday of the month. And next month in May, we're very blessed with Melinda Wood Allen, who is a beautiful New Thought minister, singer, songwriter. If you were at our town hall that we had in March, she supported us in music at that. So she's just a delightful soul and will be with us as our speaker in May. And I am uber excited about that. And I am over the moon excited about a workshop that we're having this coming Saturday. It is entitled Marketing Your Sacred Self, and it's going to be offered by Reverend Steph St. Amand, who is on this call. Steph, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself and give us a 30-second plug. Okay, you can have a whole minute plug on what this workshop is about.
Oh, it's joyfully about everything Lisa just talked about. Oh my goodness. Like discovering, it's not a workshop about marketing. It's an experience. It's an adventure in consciousness, discovering your sacred self and trusting that powerful presence that is behind us to do the work that we are called to do. That call is in us. So it's some beautiful experiential experiences and walkthroughs of finding your purpose, who you are, and that is who you are marketing. That sacred self is who you are marketing out into the world. We're selling ourselves all the time in conversations. Ooh, look at the shiny person over in that corner. I want to meet. I want to be a new person or have a new friend. We're marketing ourselves in everything we do. So it's really about just discovering the heart and soul of who you are and having that trust in yourself, in that sacred adventure to just go out, be bold and audacious in who you are. So 3 hours, hopefully we'll cover it. And I'm so excited, such a blessing to be sharing my purpose with all of you in that way.
Thank you, Steph. So I'm so excited about this. This workshop is free to Anton members. So if you're an Anton member, you haven't registered yet, please just jump onto our website and you can register for this retreat or this workshop for free. If you're not a member of Anton, you can still come. We'd love to have you there. It's $25. And these quarterly workshops are a good reason to belong to Anton. Just a little plug there. We have a monthly Gather and Gab, which is just a time to get together and talk to each other with no agenda whatsoever. That typically happens on the second Sunday of the month, but because May, the second Sunday is Mother's Day, we'll actually be having it on the 21st of May, and that happens at 5 o'clock Pacific Daylight Time. And final thing I want to say to our members, those of you who are members, we are in the process of collecting articles for a new book. And we would love to have you give us your article for a book. You can go onto the Anton website, which is antn.org, and log in as a member, and then you will find all the information for the parameters, that what we're looking for submitting your article. It is our it is our intention to publish this book no later than the spring of next year. But the sooner we get articles, the quicker we can get it published. So please, members, yes, Lisa, quick question. We have 30
Very
seconds.
quick question. There are a bunch of artists here, and we were wondering whether we could just submit artwork.
Yes, thank you for saying that. Yes, then if you go on the website and look at what we're looking for, art is included. Art, poetry, parables, mandalas, whatever you want to submit. We want this to be a very eclectic book about transformational experiences. So art, definitely. Thank you for that beautiful question. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. Thank you, Bill, for being our technical guru. And Dr. Steve is going to share our breakfast this morning. So
yeah, it took me a while to get it all done, but please eat it so I don't have to do it myself.
Thank you for cooking that for us this morning. Love you guys. Have a beautiful, beautiful day. Namaste.